And they did it to make it better for you.
Oh, they keep
I'm
They
glad
keep-
you said that.
they keep improving, right? Gloria, how are you doing? You doing okay? Good. We'll keep praying for you for your good health. Okay, so we're in Genesis chapter 46, and we're going to do a little bit of a review, okay, just to remind us. Jacob and his family were to buy food again in Egypt, and if they ever wished to see Simeon alive, Joseph's brothers must bring Benjamin down to Egypt. Still not knowing that the man, the prime minister of Egypt, was actually their brother Joseph. Once the brothers arrived, Joseph welcomed them and invited them to dinner. The very boys Joseph had accused as being spies and imprisoned on their last visit. Puzzled, the brothers cautiously entered Joseph's home and were seated in prearranged fashion according to their age. The brothers were stunned. How did this man know? The next day they left with provisions for their family, but Joseph had one final test in mind. He ordered his steward to fill their grain sacks once again return their silver to their sacks, and this time placed Joseph's special silver goblet was used for divination and put in Benjamin's sack. So after dispatching the steward to intercept the brothers, the steward found Joseph's silver goblet in Benjamin's sack. For the theft, Benjamin must die. Under arrest, the brothers returned to Fayum to face the man. Confronted by the man, Judah offered to take Benjamin's place as Joseph's slave, an offer that would surely lead to Judah's death. Judah, whose idea it was to sell young Joseph as a slave, stepped forward as a substitutionary offering, one willing to die for his half-brother, Benjamin, Rachel's son. It was a profound act of atonement, a heroic moment of redemption. Joseph, shaken to his core and sobbing loudly, revealed himself to his brothers, and they too wept. And our story moved toward its close. Joseph and Pharaoh sent the boys home to tell Jacob the news that Joseph was alive and well, and the family was moving to Egypt. We'll see what Jacob thinks of that, right? So Jacob, who's now very old and frail, packs up his family and belongings, and they all head from Hebron to a new life in Egypt. Although he longs to see Joseph before he dies, Jacob must certainly feel a sense of dread and trepidation as he faces the journey. Perhaps, too, he remembers the old story about his grandfather Abraham's dark, bloody, and nightmarish dream of split animals and smoking firepot, and God's voice saying, "Know for certain that your descendants will reside as aliens in a land not their own, where they shall be enslaved and oppressed for 400 years." That was in Genesis 15:13. Do you think that Jacob remembered that or knew about that?
Probably.
It was probably one of those things that got passed down through the generations, don't you think? Recall that the Lord appeared to Jacob's father Isaac and said, "Do not go down to Egypt, but camp in this land wherever I tell you." So that's happened too, where they've been told not to go down. And remember too, young Jacob's vision of the staircase leading up to heaven at Bethel, with angels ascending and descending upon it, and God saying to Jacob, "I am the Lord, the God of Abraham, your father, and the God of Isaac. The land on which you are lying, I will give to you and your descendants. I am with you and will protect you wherever you go, and I will bring you back to this land." Well, why do you have to bring us back? That would have been a puzzlement, right? We're in the land, so why is God saying, "I will bring you back to this land"?
Because he knows we're going to Egypt.
All this combines to make a sense of fear and dread for Jacob. It's one thing for Jacob and his family to visit Egypt and to see Joseph. It's quite another, given the covenant that he has about the land, to move there because of the famine in the land. So this has got to be really disturbing for Jacob. So let's see what he does. Chapter 46, verse 1. See if you can catch it here. So Israel set out with all that was his, and when he reached Beersheba, was he going to Beersheba? Well, how would you go to Egypt? You would get on the Via Maris and go down, right, to Goshen. Look at the map here. You see the blue dot is where he's starting at. That's Hebron. And he went the red mark down to Beersheba. Why did he go to Beersheba and not get on the Via Maris? Let's find out. He offered sacrifices to the God of his father Isaac, and God spoke to Israel in a vision at night and said, "Jacob, Jacob." "Here I am," he replied. "I am God, the God of your father," he said. "Do not be afraid to go down to Egypt, for I will make you into a great nation there. I will go down to Egypt with you, and I will surely bring you back again, and Joseph's own hand will close your eyes." What's that mean? Close your eyes.
He's gonna die, and then
Shut him
You're gonna die.
yeah.
You're gonna die, but Joseph is gonna be with
The
you.
one to close your eyes for you.
You'll die there, but God is going to keep still his promises to his family and to his people. So he knows that going down there, that's what's going to happen. And if we take a look at the map, notice that before heading to Egypt, Jacob and his family make a 26-mile detour south to Beersheba, where both Abraham and Isaac had lived. When Jacob arrives at Beersheba, he offers a sacrifice at the altar that his father had built. And at Beersheba, God speaks to Jacob and Israel as he spoke to his father Isaac, encouraging him not to be fearful. Yes, Jacob was afraid. God would not have said, "Don't be afraid," unless he was afraid. He was afraid. And here God addresses Jacob's fear, reassuring him that in Egypt his family will grow into a great nation, and that when Jacob dies, God will bring him back to the land God promised, and there Jacob will be buried. This is necessary assurance given to a frail, fearful old man facing a long journey, but it also verbally links Jacob directly to Abraham and to Jacob's father Isaac. Recall how the binding of Isaac's story begins? Sometime afterward, God put Abraham to the test and said to him, "Abraham, Abraham." "Here I am," he replied. God's words to Jacob parallel exactly God's words to Abraham. By verbally linking Jacob to Abraham and Isaac in this visit to Beersheba, it emphasizes the continuity of the patriarchal line. God is making this happen to these people because they're so noble and great people.
Yeah, right.
They're just like us. It makes me think maybe God has something noble and important that he's doing in my life. Right?
Right.
If they can use a guy like this, certainly he could do something with mine. These guys are not so great. They're just like us, just as fallible as we are.
So it's encouraging.
It is encouraging.
Dwayne was just talking about that this morning.
Yes, he was. Genesis 46, verse 5. Oh, then Jacob left Beersheba, and Israel's sons took their father Jacob and their children and their wives in the carts that Pharaoh had sent to transport him. So Jacob and all his offspring went to Egypt, taking with them their livestock and the possessions they had acquired in Canaan. Now, what did the Pharaoh say? "Don't bring all your stuff. We'll send carts for you to bring your family, but leave your stuff. We'll give you everything you could ever need when you get here." So did they do that?
No.
The first time ever we didn't listen.
Jacob brought with him to Egypt his sons and grandsons and his daughters and granddaughters and all of his offspring. And everybody went and loaded with all that they had. Here you go, right here. Here's you all.
There you go.
Like the Beverly Hillbillies,
Well,
right?
it wasn't God that told them to leave all their stuff.
No, it wasn't. But the Pharaoh said he would give them all the stuff that they need. They didn't need to bring all that with them.
I thought it was bad when Vern put a thing on top of our car. We had a two-door car at the time, and he put this big trunk with all our clothes in it up on the roof, and I was like, this is so embarrassing.
You felt like this guy on the left side there?
I mean, it's like one of these big trucks that
Yes.
take on a ship
Yeah.
up
Yeah.
on the roof of the car. Well, he had a rack there with it.
Yeah, you guys are a couple hillbillies. Just deal with
Yeah,
it.
rednecks, that's what we are.
So they loaded up their stuff and all their people and headed to Goshen with a stop in Beersheba for courage. That's where they're going. In Genesis 46, verse 8, these are the names of the sons of Israel, Jacob and his descendants, who went to Egypt. Did any of these people, these direct people, come back from Egypt? They're not going to come back in the land for 400 years.
No,
So who comes back?
their descendants.
Their descendants. So they would say, we're the descendants of Reuben. We're coming back into that. They kept the identity of being of that parentage. Reuben, the firstborn of Jacob, the sons of Reuben, Hanok, Palub, Hezron, and Carmi, the sons of Simeon, Jemuel, Jamin, blah, 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 and the son of a Canaanite woman, and the sons of Levi, Gershom, Kohath, and Merari, the sons of Judah, Onan, Shelah, Perez, and Zerah, but and Onan had died in the land of Canaan. The sons of Perez, Hezron, and Hamul. So the brothers are in order of birth. Levi's sons will be assigned as priests in the future, with specific duties assigned per clan. Every clan had certain duties, and the Levites did the priesthood. Judah is a main character along with Joseph. God killed and Onan in the land of Canaan. That's pretty bad. It's not like they accidentally died. God killed them. Remember, Judah had sex with his daughter-in-law Tamar, who bore twins Perez and Zerah. As we can see, Perez had two sons, Hezron and Hamel. This lineage is important because we find in Matthew that Jesus came through Judah. King David, Jacob, Judah to Perez, Hezron, and all the way to Jesus. What do you think? Is that something to be proud of?
Sure.
Sure. Too bad they were such scoundrels all along the way, right? But they did their best to do what they could with what they had. Some of them Judah recognized what he had done wrong, right? And he tried to be better. And that's kind of where we are. And God came through those people. It doesn't mean that they were perfect, because he came through them. God can do a work even in us imperfect people. You got the sons of Issachar, you got the sons of Zebulun, and Leah. These were the sons Leah bore to Jacob and Paddan Aram, besides his daughter Dinah. These sons and daughters of his were 33 in all. The sons of Gad, then you got the sons of Asher, and these were the children born to Jacob by Zilpah, whom Laban had given to his daughter Leah, 16 in all. So Leah's were 33 in all, and Zilch were 16 in all. Oh well. The sons of Jacob's wife, Rachel, Joseph, and Benjamin. In Egypt, Manasseh and Ephraim were born to Joseph by Hasenath, daughter of Potipharah, priest of On. The sons of Benjamin, you've got the sons of Rachel, 14 in all. So the sons of Dan, then the sons of Naphtali, and the sons born to Jacob by Bilhah, whom Laban had given to his daughter Rachel. So there were 7 in all. So 14 from Rachel, 7 from Bilhah, and 21 in all. That the rest are from Leah.
My mother-in-law has 16 kids.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
She says the twins 11 months apart.
Oh my goodness. That would be something. All those who went to Egypt with Jacob, those were his direct descendants, not counting his sons' wives, numbered 66 persons. With the 2 sons who had been born to Joseph in Egypt, the members of Jacob's family which went to Egypt were 70 in all. So if you do the math here, it doesn't add up. Jacob's sons were 12, Jacob's daughter Dinah 1, Jacob's grandsons were 53, so there's a total of 66. And we already counted Joseph's sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, and we subtracted and Onan, who God killed, but then we added in the 2 sons of Perez, Hezron and Hamul, so that's a wash, bringing us back to 66, plus Jacob himself making 67 in total. So the point is, we don't know how God is counting that, Did he count some of those that like, did he count and Onan, who he put to death as part of the lineage? We don't, so it's a little bit confusing. We don't really know the answer to that. One thing we do know about the numbers in Genesis are primarily symbolic. They're based on numbers 3, 7, 12, and 40. And the structure of Genesis consists of sets of 3. Plus you have 3 patriarchs, 7 days of creation, 12 sons, and so on. To say, for example, that creation spans 7 days suggests completion and perfection. Here 70 is 67 rounded up to completion, 7 times 10. Now, do I believe that? No. I just think we don't know how it's being counted and who is being included. You have all those others in there that were, and I wouldn't be surprised if some of those that they would exclude from that number would be included by God. So, but that's because I take a more literal approach instead of the more figurative approach when it comes to scripture. So the mouse points out that the narrative is that Jacob started out as a single person, and now he is a patriarch of a large family who will become a nation through whom God's plan of redemption will encompass all humanity. That's the bottom line. Israel and family arrived in the land of Goshen, traveling south and then west along the Via Maris. Joseph heads north to the land of Goshen to meet him. Verse 28. Now Jacob sent Judah ahead of him to Joseph to get directions to Goshen. When they arrived in the region of Goshen, Joseph had his chariot made ready and went to Goshen to meet his father Israel. As soon as Joseph appeared before him, he threw his arms around his father and wept for a long time. Israel said to Joseph, "Now I am ready to die, since I have seen for myself that you are still alive." So that's the first time in 22 years since Joseph had seen him. He wanted his father to know he was a success. Joseph pulls out all the stops as he rides into town in a golden chariot drawn by 2 prancing white Egyptian horses. Joseph, triumphant ruler of Egypt. But when Joseph sees his frail older father Jacob, he embraces him, and once again he becomes the weeping child in his father's arms. Clinging to Jacob's neck, sobbing, tears streaming down his cheeks, the great one of Egypt is weeping. Then Joseph said to his brothers and to his father's household, "I will go and speak to Pharaoh and will say to him, 'My brothers and my father's household who were living in the land of Canaan have come to me. The men are shepherds, and they tend livestock, and they have brought along their flocks and herds and everything they own. When Pharaoh calls you in and asks, 'What is your occupation?' you should answer, 'Your servants have tended livestock from our boyhood on, just as our fathers did.' Then you will be allowed to settle in the region of Goshen, for all shepherds are detestable to the Egyptians." So what's Joseph doing here?
He's giving them their own land.
Yep. And he's making sure they say the right thing to impress the ruler, right? He doesn't want them to go blabbering about whatever, anything else. He wants to make sure they know exactly what to say to get what they need. So he's setting them up for success. Joseph went and told Pharaoh, "My father and brothers with their flocks and herds and everything they own have come from the land of Canaan and are now in Goshen." He chose 5 of his brothers and presented them before Pharaoh. So how did he choose the 5?
The smelliest ones.
The 5 that might make the best impression, right? And say what he said to say. He doesn't want him going off the record here. Pharaoh asked the brothers, "What is your occupation?" "Your servants are shepherds," they replied to the Pharaoh, "just as our fathers were." That's what he told them to say, right? They also said to him, "We have come to live here for a while because the famine is severe in Canaan, and your servants' flocks have no pasture. So now please let your servants settle in Goshen." So, what do you think? Did they do good?
Yeah.
Did what they were told.
which is not like them.
For once.
For once. Pharaoh said to Joseph, "Your father and your brothers have come to you, and the land of Egypt is before you. Settle your father and your brothers in the best part of the land. Let them live in Goshen. And if you know of any among them with special ability, put them in charge of my own livestock. That's exactly what he wanted, right?
Mhm.
So, and it was very gracious of Pharaoh. It was very gracious of him. But what's been happening these years of famine for the Pharaoh? He is rich as all get out and getting richer,
Thanks to Joseph.
thanks to Joseph. So he understands what a good thing he's got going on. He's going to keep this Joseph happy and continuing to go. Remember now, Jacob is 130 years old. Joseph brought his father Jacob in and presented him before Pharaoh. After Jacob blessed Pharaoh, Pharaoh asked him, "How old are you?" And Jacob said to Pharaoh, "The years of my pilgrimage are 130. My years have been few and difficult, and they do not equal the years of the pilgrimage of my fathers." Then Jacob blessed Pharaoh and went out from his presence. So we don't get the joke here. But old Jacob blesses Pharaoh twice. Joseph must have been mortified because we learned in the story of Abraham and with Melchizedek, Hebrews tells us explicitly, the greater blesses the lesser, not the other way around. Here the old bearded Hebrew, Jacob, blesses Pharaoh, king of the mighty Egyptian empire. Pharaoh probably thought this was very humorous. Pharaoh seems amused by the whole thing. Imagine his tone of voice when he asked Jacob, "Just how old are you?" And Jacob intones his answer with great solemnity. "The years I have lived as a wayfarer amount to 130. Few and hard have been these years of my life." Joseph's face probably turned red. So Joseph settled his father and his brothers in Egypt and gave them property in the best part of the land, the district of Ramses, as Pharaoh directed. Guess what? This verse tells us that this part of Genesis was probably written later. Later. So when would be later? When was Genesis written down?
Probably when Moses got it from God in the tent of meeting.
We know that we have an oral tradition. We saw the pattern of the oral, like the poetry of it, so you could memorize it, and they would repeat this oral tradition over and over again. But at some point, all of Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Deuteronomy, the five books get written by Moses in the tent of meeting. And we see that when we go to Exodus, we'll see where the presence of God comes over the tent of meeting, and the people can hear God talking to Moses and telling him this. So here's one of the first evidences of that, because Ramses is not alive yet. He's a later king. He's a later king in Egypt. And so this is part of how we know that this was written down at a later time. So this says, so Joseph settled his father and his brothers in Egypt and gave them property in the best part of the land, the district of Ramses, as Pharaoh directed. So there was an area of Goshen that was later, when Ramses was around, that was his territory. And so by naming it here, this is how we know that this was written down at a later time. Joseph also provided his father and his brothers and all his father's household with food according to the number of their children. There was no food, however, in the whole region because the famine was severe. Both Egypt and Canaan wasted away because of the famine. Joseph collected all the money that was to be found in Egypt and Canaan in payment for the grain they were buying, and he brought it to Pharaoh's palace. When the money of the people of Egypt and Canaan was gone, all Egypt came to Joseph and said, "Give us food. Why should we die before your eyes? Our money is all gone." "Then bring your livestock," said Joseph. "I will sell you food in exchange for your livestock, since your money is gone." So they brought their livestock to Joseph, and he gave them food in exchange for their horses, their sheep and goats, their cattle and donkeys. And he brought them through that year with food in exchange for all their livestock. So he's really raking it in for the king. So now we're going to move into the third year of the 7-year famine. Third year of the 7-year famine. As each year passes, the famine's getting worse and the people have no resources. But Joseph true to Egyptians, they became serfs, but they benefit because they kept 80% of their agriculture while they paid the government 20%. So that's what he set up, so that they really gained a lot of money from the people and produce, the animals and all the crops he had already harvested, and he had the grain. So he was giving them the grain so that could keep the animals and all alive.
Well,
Go
I
ahead.
got a question. When they collected the grain, did they pay those farmers for the grain?
Yeah.
Did they?
hmm They paid them in grain. They bought the grain in the first place.
Okay, but they paid the farmers for raising the grain
Right.
when they collected it?
hmm
Okay, that was my question.
Yeah, and they gathered and they did their own grain too. They made sure to plant their own fields too, and then they bought grain and they stored it up, and that lasted. That 7 years of bounty is what gave them what they needed for the 7 next years of famine. And so, by his administration, the way that he did it, they survived. They would not have survived if he had not done that. So he took in the livestock because he could feed them. They couldn't feed the livestock. He took in everything because he could keep it going. And they benefited from that in the long run. They survived. So even those people that he got their livestock and all of that, the thing they're saying is, well, we're surviving this time. We would be dead if it weren't for this. If he weren't willing to buy our animals and to buy our,
So it's better to be alive and have nothing.
Well, there's nothing to have unless you're going to move to another land and raise
Yeah.
grain somewhere else. So what are they going to do? What it ended up being is they kept the Egyptians created serfs, and they let them have 80% of their agriculture, and they paid the government 20%. So they gave them what they needed to be able to grow the grain and all that, and took 20% of it. And that way they had enough to survive, and also the Pharaoh just kept getting richer.
Aren't they kind of out of the frying pan into the fire, though? They left Canaan because there was nothing to eat. Now they're in Egypt and there's nothing to eat.
Well, but they have that Joseph there,
Yeah.
and Joseph's taking care and make sure they have what they need. So that's why they moved. But you're right, there's nothing to eat there either. Egypt is also suffering.
Yeah.
But with all that he had stored for 7 years, he stored enough grain to let everybody survive the next 7 years of famine. He gathered for 7 years, and he gave out for 7 years. Verse 18, when that year was over, they came to him the following year and said, we cannot hide from our Lord the fact that since our money is gone and our livestock belongs to you, there's nothing left for our Lord except our bodies and our land. Why should we perish before your eyes, we and our land as well? Buy us and our land in exchange for food, and we with our land will be in bondage to Pharaoh. Give us seed so that we may live and not die, and that the land may not become desolate. So Joseph bought all the land in Egypt for Pharaoh. The Egyptians, one and all, sold their fields because the famine was too severe for them. The land became Pharaoh's, and Joseph reduced the people to servitude from one end of Egypt to the other. However, he did not buy the land of the priests, because they received a regular allotment from Pharaoh and had food enough from the allotment Pharaoh gave them. That is why they did not sell their land. So it was so severe and so long that the people were just barely getting by. They barely could survive. Yes, Vern?
Could this be considered insider trading?
Which part are you referring to?
Getting rich because you knew something that everybody else didn't?
Yeah, well, that's pretty much what God set up for him.
Yeah.
But I thought you might want to mention about the whole priest thing. What would make Joseph sensitive to these ungodly priests owning their land? What influence would there be on Joseph? Who was Joseph's wife?
That's Sheba.
Joseph's wife.
Oh, she was an Egyptian.
She was an
Oh, she
Egyptian,
was,
and who's her daddy?
Pharaoh.
The high priest.
Oh, the high priest.
The high priest, On, I think was his name, right? On?
What was her name?
Oh, I don't remember now. But It makes you wonder. Now the priests, they kept all their stuff, right? Well, you got to take care of the wife and his family. Anyway, Joseph became a shrewd politician. Joseph said to the people, "Now that I have bought you and your land today for Pharaoh, here is seed for you so that you can plant the ground. But when the crop comes in, give 1/5 of it to Pharaoh. The other 4/5 you may keep as seed for the fields and as food for yourselves and your households and your children." There you go. He's only taken 1/5 of it, right? So they have the rest to live off of and to continue. "You have saved our lives," they said. "May we find favor in the eyes of our Lord. We will be in bondage to Pharaoh." So Joseph established it as a law concerning land in Egypt, still in force today, whenever that day was, that 1/5 of the produce belongs to Pharaoh. It was only the land of the priests that did not become Pharaoh's. So Jacob, Israel, is very old man of 130 years. He's finally embraced Joseph, his firstborn, of Rachel, who was his beloved, and the son he thought he had lost. And he said to himself, "At last I can die. Now I have seen for myself that Joseph is alive." That's what he said for himself. So Joseph and Pharaoh together settled Jacob and his family in the land of Goshen, near what will later be called the city of Ramesses, a very fertile area of the northeastern Nile Delta. So they're set. Now the Israelites, go ahead.
His wife's name was Asenath.
I won't repeat it if you don't mind. But yes, thank you for looking it up. Now the Israelites settled in Egypt in the region of Goshen. They acquired property there and were fruitful and increased greatly in number. Jacob lived in Egypt 17 years. How long was Joseph in Egypt?
20.
Yeah, it's almost like an equal amount. And the years of his life were 147. When the time drew near for Israel to die, he called for his son Joseph and said to him, "If I have found favor in your eyes, put your hand under my thigh and promise that you will show me kindness and faithfulness." Hey, where's that hand under the thigh thing come from?
Abraham.
You remember that? And what's the symbolism? You're swearing on the family jewels, the posterity, the inheritance. Remember that? "If I have found favor in your eyes, put your hand under my thigh and promise that you will show me kindness and faithfulness. Do not bury me in Egypt, but when I rest with my fathers, carry me out of Egypt and bury me where they are buried. I will do as you say," he said. "Swear to me," he said. Then Joseph swore to him, and Israel worshipped as he leaned on the top of his staff. This is what God had said to him in Genesis. This is when Jacob was trying to escape. Genesis 28. "I am the Lord, the God of your father Abraham, the God of Isaac. I will give you and your descendants the land on which you are lying. Your descendants will be like the dust of the earth, and you will spread out to the west and to the east, to the north and to the south. All peoples on earth will be blessed through you and your offspring. I am with you and will watch over you wherever you go, and I will bring you back to this land. I will not leave you until I have done what I have promised you." So that's why he's saying, "Take me back, take my bones, my body back."
Okay.
Genesis 46, "I am God, the God of your father," he said. "Do not be afraid to go down to Egypt, for I will make you into a great nation there. I will go down to Egypt with you, and I will surely bring you back again, and Joseph's own hand will close your eyes."
Okay, so when he first said, "I will bring you back," and that might have been puzzling. Like, why am I going to be gone?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Isn't that what Scripture does to us all the time? We think, wow, well, what do I need to know this for? And then 5 years later, we're going, whoa, I'm glad God taught me that when he did. Right. Jacob, now a very old man of 147, calls Joseph to his side and elicits a promise that Joseph will see to it that when Jacob dies, Joseph will have him buried in Hebron, along with Abraham and Sarah, Isaac and Rebekah. And as when Eliezer of Damascus makes a solemn vow by placing his hand under the thigh of Abraham, so does Joseph make a solemn vow by placing his hand under the thigh of Jacob, promising that Joseph will see to it that Jacob is buried in the tomb of the patriarchs in Hebron. So as Joseph lived with Jacob and his brothers for 17 years before being sold into slavery in Egypt, so now Jacob lives with Joseph in Egypt for 17 years. It's kind of an interesting balance, isn't it? Genesis 48:1. Sometime later, Joseph was told, "Your father's ill." So he took his 2 sons, Manasseh and Ephraim, along with him. When Jacob was told, "Your son Joseph has come to you," Israel rallied his strength and sat up on the bed. Jacob said to Joseph, "God Almighty appeared to me at Luz in the land of Canaan, and there he blessed me and said to me, I am going to make you fruitful and increase your numbers. I will make you a community of peoples, and I will give this land as an everlasting possession to your descendants after you." Luz is another name for Bethel, where he had stopped on his way. "Now then, your 2 sons born to you in Egypt before I came to you, here will be reckoned as mine. Ephraim and Manasseh will be mine." What's he saying there? The 12 sons, Joseph is one of those 12, right? What he's saying is that Joseph's place will be filled by 2. So Ephraim and Manasseh will be like the sons, not the grandsons. It's like he's usurping the position. That blesses Joseph twice, basically. "Just as Reuben and Simeon are mine, any children born to you after them will be yours." In other words, other children born to you, that will be yours, but these 2 will be mine. "In the territory they inherit, they will be reckoned under the names of their brothers. As I was returning from Padan to my sorrow, Rachel died in the land of Canaan while we were still on the way, a little distance from Ephrath. So I buried her there beside the road to Ephrath," that is Bethlehem. So Jacob is dying, and he wants to give his final blessing to his children, and that blessing, among other things, is kind of like a last will and testament. He's going to say what he wants to have happen with things. Although Joseph was Jacob's 11th son, he is Jacob's firstborn by Rachel, the wife that he loved. In Jacob's eyes, Joseph is his legitimate firstborn son. That has considerable legal implications, and it follows the pattern of Genesis, where we've seen several times them flipping around. We saw Isaac displaced Ishmael, Jacob displaced Esau. Now Joseph displaces Reuben, Simeon, and Levi. Reuben had been forfeited his position by having sex with Jacob's concubine. Bilhah, Simeon, and Levi by slaughtering the Shechemites. Joseph is brought up over the top of all those others because he did not participate in that.
He wasn't there.
Not only that, but Jacob elevates Joseph's sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, from grandsons to full sons with all the inheritance rights that accompany that position. In doing so, he also doubles Joseph's blessing. The boys will become the nuclei of the 12 tribes of Israel. So when you say the 12 tribes of Israel, do you ever say Joseph?
No.
Ephraim
Okay,
and Manasseh.
But there would be 13, except they had to leave Levi out because he was a priest. And,
So it ends up at 12.
yeah.
Yeah, did they know that ahead of time when this was going on? Did Jacob know that there was going to be the 12 tribes and the Levites would be out? And
Maybe not.
probably not. He doesn't know anything
No.
about that. He doesn't know what's going to happen in the future, right?
Well, the Levites got their land because they were priests.
Well, they didn't actually get land. They got certain cities. I think there were 24 of the cities that they got.
Yeah.
And so they actually didn't have land. So they had certain cities, and they performed the functions of the priesthood, which was kind of legal and also spiritual, religious activities. They did the sacrifices and all, but they also, like if someone was accused of murder, they would run to the Levites, and they would run like a judicial thing. So yeah, the Levites, so when you count the 12 tribes, you don't see the tribes of Levi here,
But everybody else was commanded to help support the Levites.
right?
So they didn't have animals and pastures and stuff like that?
They did in their cities, in their city.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But they got all the tax revenue too.
Yeah, they did okay. Yeah, but we get confused about the 12 tribes. Levi's not part of the 12 tribes, and so by taking Joseph out and replacing Ephraim and Manasseh, that's where you have the 12 tribes. So, in case you ever get confused about that. Okay. When Israel saw the sons of Joseph, he asked, "Who are these?" "They are the sons God has given me here," Joseph said to his father. Then Israel said, "Bring them to me so I may bless them." Now Israel's eyes were failing because of old age, and he could hardly see. So Joseph brought his sons close to him, and his father kissed them and embraced them. Israel said to Joseph, "I never expected to see your face again, and now God has allowed me to see your children too." 17 years he had not seen Joseph and assumed that he was dead. And now here he is giving the blessing to his children. That must have been a really touching moment for him. Then Joseph removed them from Israel's knees and bowed down with his face to the ground. And Joseph took both of them, Ephraim on his right toward Israel's left hand, and Manasseh on his left toward Israel's right hand, and brought them close to him. So he's putting the older one and the younger one. But Israel reached out his right hand and put it on Ephraim's head, though he was the younger. And crossing his arms, he put his left hand on Manasseh's head, even though Manasseh was the firstborn. So moving the younger son into the more of a position of importance than the older.
Happened again.
And here we go. Then he blessed Joseph and said, "May the God before whom my fathers Abraham and Isaac walked faithfully, the God who has been my shepherd all my life to this day, the angel who has delivered me from all harm, may he bless these boys. May they be called by my name and the names of my fathers Abraham and Isaac, and may they increase greatly on the earth." When Joseph saw his father placing his right hand on Ephraim's head, he was displeased. So he took hold of his father's hand to move it from Ephraim's head to Manasseh's head. Joseph said to him, "No, my father, this one is the firstborn. Put your right hand on his head." But his father refused and said, "I know, my son, I know. He too will become a people, and he too will become great. Nevertheless, his younger brother will be greater than he, and his descendants will become a group of nations." He blessed them that day and said, "In your name will Israel pronounce this blessing. May God make you like Ephraim and Manasseh." So he put Ephraim ahead of Manasseh. Then Israel said to Joseph, "I am about to die, but God will do with you and take you back to the land of your fathers." God will be with you and take you back to the land of your fathers. And to you I give one more ridge of land than to your brothers, the ridge I took from the Amorites with my sword and bow. Then Jacob called for his sons and said, "Gather around so I can tell you what will happen to you in the days to come." Oh, great. Do you think they were eager, or were they like, "Oh no, you're going to get it now"? "Assemble and listen, sons of Jacob. Listen to your father Israel. Reuben, you are my firstborn, my might, the first sign of my strength, excelling in honor, excelling in power. Turbulent will the waters, you will no longer excel. For you went up onto your father's bed, onto my couch, and defiled it." So this is not a prophecy, this is a prediction. The father is describing the son's likely outcomes because of the behaviors that he's seen as they're growing up. "Simeon and Levi are brothers, their swords are weapons of violence. Let them not enter their council, let me not join their assembly, for they have killed men in their anger and hamstrung oxen as they pleased. Cursed be their anger so fierce and their fury so cruel. I will scatter them in Jacob and disperse them in Israel." That seems more of a curse than a blessing, doesn't it?
Yeah.
"Judah, your brothers will praise you. Your hand will be on the neck of your enemies. Your father's sons will bow down to you. You are a lion's cub, Judah. You return from the prey, my son. Like a lion, he crouches and lies down, like a lioness who dares to rouse him. The scepter will not depart from Judah, nor the ruler's staff from between his feet, until he to whom it belongs shall come." So there's some kind of ruler involved here, right? "And the obedience of the nations will be his. He will tether his donkey to a vine, his colt to the choicest branch. He will wash his garments in wine, his robes in the blood of grapes. His eyes will be darker than wine, his teeth whiter than milk." So Judah will be in the redemption line. He's in the line toward redemption. Your brothers will bow down to you. Judah will be the ancestor of David and eventually Christ. Christ is in the line of Judah. "Zebulun will live by the seashore and become a haven for ships. His border will extend towards Sidon. Issachar is a raw-boned donkey lying down among sheep pens. When he sees how good is his resting place and how pleasant is his land, he will bend his shoulder to the burden and submit to forced labor. Dan will provide justice for his people as one of the tribes of Israel. Dan will be a snake by the roadside, a viper along the path that bites the horse's heels so that its rider tumbles backward. I look for you, deliverance, Lord. Remember, Dan gets a small, when the land is located later, Dan gets a small piece right in Philistine country. Later in Judges, they slaughter people on their north and take over, so they're considered a poisonous viper because they fought the people right next door to them. Gad will be attacked by a band of raiders, but he will attack them at their heels. Asher's food will be rich. He will provide delicacies fit for a king. In other words, he's going to be a farmer. Naphtali is a doe set free that bears beautiful fawns. Joseph is a fruitful vine near a spring whose branches climb over a wall. With bitterness, archers attacked him. They shot at him with hostility, but his bow remained steady. His strong arm stayed limber because of the hand of the mighty one of Jacob, because of the shepherd, the rock of Israel, because of your father's God who helps you, because of the Almighty who blesses you with the blessings of the skies above, blessings of the deep springs below, blessings of the breast and womb. Your father's blessings are greater than the blessings of the ancient mountains, than the bounty of the age-old hills. Let all these rest on the head of Joseph, on the brow of the prince among his brothers. So that was a double blessing, not one tribe of Joseph, but two. So he's considered a prince among his brothers. I bet they were happy to hear that, don't you think?
Oh, yeah.
They're getting the knives out. Benjamin is a ravenous wolf. In the morning he devours the prey. In the evening he divides the plunder. All these are the 12 tribes of Israel, and this is what their father said to them when he blessed them, giving each the blessing appropriate to him. So Benjamin is the smallest tribe, but is the one from which, it was from the son of Rachel. So the second son of Rachel, and she died giving birth to him. Benjamin's the smallest tribe, but King Saul, the first king, comes from the tribe of Benjamin. The Benjamites end up being almost exterminated by the other tribes after the problem with the Levites took place in Judges. We'll be reading about that later. But so he was the smallest tribe, but the first king came from his tribe, King Saul. King Saul started out as a good guy, you know that, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, later he got bad, but he started out okay. He had potential. Jacob's blessings capture the character of each brother, and in doing so foreshadow the future of their descendants. Indeed, over 430 years in Egypt, the brothers grow into a nation numbering upwards of 2 million. Okay, in 430 years, are any of the originally named brothers alive?
No.
No, they're only living like 150 years now. They're not living those big years. At the Exodus, we're told about 600,000 men on foot left Egypt, not counting the children. In Numbers, we count them up. All the men between the ages of 20 to 50 who could fight numbered 603,000. So they went from 70 to 603,000, and that's just between the ages of 20 and 50. Here are the tribes that they were listed, the names of the tribes and the numbers of people within that in that 20 to 50-year-old mark. After the conquest of Canaan, the promised land is allocated according to tribe, clan, and family like this. This map we've seen many times. It divides up the 12 tribes. Which tribe is missing, Vern?
Levi.
Levi's missing because they were appointed cities. So that kind of makes room for the 2 extra tribes that were added on. So they had 48 cities within the territories in which they can live, farm, and raise crops as they go about serving in the synagogues and offering the required sacrifices. So there were 48 cities. They also, I think, remember we read that people would, if they were in legal trouble, they would run to the Levitical city it'd be like
refuge.
almost like a judge.
Yeah, the cities of refuge.
Yeah. Then he gave them these instructions. I am about to be gathered to my people. Bury me with my fathers in the cave in the field of Ephron the Hittite, the cave in the field of Machpelah near Mamre in Canaan, which Abraham brought along with the field as a burial place from Ephron the Hittite. There Abraham and his wife Sarah were buried. There Isaac and his wife Rebekah were buried. And there I buried Leah. The field and the cave in it were bought from the Hittites. When Jacob had finished giving instructions to his sons, he drew his feet up into the bed, breathed his last, and was gathered to his people. Joseph threw himself on his father and wept over him and kissed him. Then Joseph directed the physicians in his service to embalm his father Israel. So the physicians embalmed him, taking a full 40 days, for that was the time required for embalming. And the Egyptians mourned for him 70 days. When the days of mourning had passed, Joseph said to Pharaoh's court, "If I found favor in your eyes, speak to Pharaoh for me. Tell him, my father made me swear an oath and said, I'm about to die. Bury me in the tomb I dug for myself in the land of Canaan. Now let me go up and bury my father. Then I will return." Pharaoh said, "Go up and bury your father, as he made you swear to do." So Joseph went up to bury his father. All Pharaoh's officials accompanied him. What do you think that looked like?
Make sure he comes back to
Yeah. But what do you think that looked like? All the dignitaries of his court and all the dignitaries of Egypt, besides all the members of Joseph's household and his brothers and those belonging to his father's household. Only their children and their flocks and herds were left in Goshen. Chariots and horsemen also went up with him. It was a very large company.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess.
And I'm wondering about any of the people that were still in the land, you know. They see all these Egyptians coming up with all this. When they reached the threshing floor of Atad near Jordan, they lamented loudly and bitterly, and there Joseph observed a 7-day period of mourning for his father. When the Canaanites who lived there saw the mourning at the threshing floor at Atad, they said, "The Egyptians are holding a solemn ceremony of mourning. This is why that place near the Jordan is called Abel Mizraim." So Jacob's sons did as he had commanded them. They carried him to the land of Canaan and buried him in the cave in the field of Machpelah near Mamre, which Abraham had bought along with the field as a burial place for Ephron the Hittite. After burying his father, Joseph returned to Egypt together with his brothers and all the others who had gone with him to bury his father. Where'd they go?
Back to
Back to
Egypt,
Egypt.
Goshen.
That's where the food is at,
Yeah.
and the grain and the fields. When Joseph's brothers saw that their father was dead, they said, "What if Joseph holds a grudge against us and pays us back for all the wrongs we did to him?"
Oh, they're still got a guilty conscience.
So they sent word to Joseph saying, "Your father left these instructions before he died. This is what you are to say to Joseph. I ask you to forgive your brothers the sins and the wrongs they committed in treating you so badly. Now please forgive the sins of the servants of the God of your father." When their message came to him, Joseph wept. Why did he weep?
Because they had apologized for, basically, for what they did.
Do you think he was touched?
Yeah.
I think I could
think
see
he
that.
was-
Could be the other way
I
around.
think he was disappointed that they were still concerned.
After all that he's
After
done.
all he had done to take care
After all
of them.
he's done to take care of them and their families.
He figured out what they were doing.
Yeah. His brothers then came and threw themselves down before him. "We are your slaves," they said. But Joseph said to them, "Don't be afraid. Am I in the place of God?" Oh, did you get that?
Judgment.
Yeah. Well, God will sort this out with y'all.
Yeah.
You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives. So how does he view it? God allowed it to happen. God could have prevented it from happening. He could have stopped it. Joseph is realizing that God allowed this to happen, and Joseph feels like he knows why.
Because of the famine.
He saved a lot of people through that famine by gathering the 7 years and by then, giving it out the next 7 years. So then, don't be afraid. I will provide for you and your children. And he reassured them and spoke kindly to them. He's a greater character than I think I would have been. Joseph stayed in Egypt along with all his father's family. He lived 110 years and saw the 3rd generation of Ephraim's children. Also the children of Machir, son of Manasseh, were placed at birth on Joseph's knees. Then Joseph said to his brothers, "I'm about to die, but God will surely come to your aid and take you up out of this land to the land he promised an oath to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob." And Joseph made the Israelites swear an oath and said, "God will surely come to your aid, and then you must carry my bones up from this place." So Joseph died at the age of 110. And after they embalmed him, he was placed in a coffin in Egypt. Now, why do you think he died at 110 and some of his older brothers, some we don't know how many, are still alive?
Maybe he had more stress.
Lived too easy.
Some say that eating the rich food of the Egyptians would shorten your life, whereas those that were eating the food off of the land and the herds and stuff like that, that their lives actually were longer. I don't know if that's true. We don't see anything here to say why. But he did only live to be 110. But we do know that the ages are going down, but it sounds like many of his older brothers were still alive. So we don't know why he died younger. But 110, that's a pretty long life. So what do you think? We saw in Genesis, we saw the creation of the world, the beginning of humanity, the beginning of sin, the beginning of God's plan of redemption, and the beginning of Israel as God's unique instrument in his plan.
Well, I've always thought when he was younger, he was a spoiled brat, and that's why his brothers wanted to get rid of him. But when he told them the dreams, he was just telling them what he saw in the dream.
What the plan was.
He wasn't trying to say, I'm the big shot. He was just telling them the dream, and I never thought of it that way. I just thought since, Daddy loved him best, he was a spoiled brat, and he was kind of like lording it over him. But he was just telling them what he saw in the dream, and it came true.
When we see his character more as an older person, as an adult, it's like we go back and we see it that way. But I can also see it the other way, that he's just a kid, and he's saying, yeah, and just, bragging kind of, or telling. I could see it both ways. Joseph had a lot to learn, and he had a lot of hard knocks that taught him some good lessons. And he had to learn to be a little more savvy about who he spoke to and what he said.
Well, they threw him in prison for a while too,
Yeah.
before he became Pharaoh's.
It's not like he had it easy,
Top guy.
right?
He got humbled, all right.
He did. He did. And so we have now seen in Genesis the making of the Israelites. Now they're going to spend 430 years or so in Egypt. And they're going to grow. And they're going to become a really large people. Many people think that that was God's purpose in bringing them to Egypt, was to grow the nation so that they could go back into the land and take the Canaanite territories. But so that's what we're going to see next. Next week, though, I want to do Job, because I feel like it's the perfect time. We'll spend at least one, maybe 2 sessions on Job. We'll see how it goes. But there's some key things about what God is doing in Job that I think we need to look at, as we go into Exodus. So, does that sound all right to you all?
You bet.
So, what do you guys feel like